Okay, so I'm back, and it was a very tiring flight journey. I mean, almost it took 24 hours for me to back in India. So I was not able to upload for you the second and third newspapers. I'm going to do that on this Sunday if my time permits. But I will try to provide you the notes at least for those newspapers. The first one is related to today is 4th December 2015. It was related to the Chennai floods. So coming to the Chennai floods, we know that 34 centimeters of rainfall per day is very much high as compared to any calculation. However, there are many reasons for this failure of man, or else we can see the strong failures of the urban management over here. Now, entire floodplains in Chennai, they are being occupied by the real estate business. And added to this, the drainage system was not upgraded to the needs. And this clogging of the drains, unregulated growth of the real estate, illegal occupation of the floodplains, these all have led to the creation of this havoc. If you observe, the second runway in Chennai airport itself was built on Adayar River. You don't know where the airport ends and where the river begins. To that extent, there is something called as a continuity. There is occupation of the floodplains by very much by the governmental programs itself. This mismanagement of the urban infrastructure and also urban resources, it is not confined to Chennai alone. If you take Mumbai, recently, almost 2 years back, there was around 18 centimeters of rainfall in Mumbai. It was flooded the entire Mumbai. And even the new runway which is coming up in Mumbai, that is also is occupying this floodplain of the rivers over there. So in this context, the urban management has to be based on a long-term vision rather than short-sighted. That is what is our carry-home point. Now, UK joining the anti-IAS war. Now, recently, House of Commons has given the permission for the UK to join this anti-IAS war. So we have to see how it's going to taken forward. Now, this is the most important article which I saw where you can use this. By reading this article, you need to understand what is meant by modernity. Modernity, scienticism, positivism, rationality. If you are a fresher, try to find out the answers for these questions. Now, today we are said to be in the world of postmodernism. Then first think how the timeline of the history was divided into ancient, medieval and modern. So the modern, this word has come from the Europe to signify certain important developments. The period of Renaissance, the period of Enlightenment. These are the ages that signify an positive scientific rational attitude in European history. To signify this, the modern period has come into existence. Simultaneously, the medieval period was signified with the stagnation, religiosity, superstition, etc. It means the modernization or modernity is a period that has a rapid change with certain values that are important to the humanism. And also, the modernity is a phase that involves the development of science and technology. But one thing is, this very much differentiation into modern and medieval periods that do not have a significant attributes from the Asian and African communities. So it is biased towards the Europe and America. So this differentiation into ancient, medieval, modern is European and American centric. In this context, if you see in China, the gunpowder was invented, which has got wider significances. In China, I'll add it to that printing. All these are not being recognized into this particular theme. Now, what the author argues over here is the differentiation of the history or history periodization needs to be revisited. By taking whatever the things which are there in a context or taking significance of our own civilization. So it was broadly seen that the democracy, secularism, individualism, capitalism, industry, all these are the gifts of the Europe to the humankind. So everywhere the Eurocentrism is reflecting in the historical periodization. So we need to have a rethink on that. That's what is this topic argues about. For public administration students, last year there is a question on postmodernism. So what the modernism reflects, if you understand, then you can understand the postmodernism. For example, the behavioral theory reflects the modern period. Then what is the postmodernism is all about? So this is how we need to understand this article from. The ending politics of remission. This article is actually evolving. You know that Article 72 and Article 161, they talk about executive clemency, under which remit, commute, respite the sentence given to a particular convict by the president and governor respectively. Now in this context, after the Rajiv Gandhi assassination, the people who are involved in the plot, for them the Tamil Nadu government of J.J. Lalitha, it has given remission. So in this context, the issue was challenged by then UPA government in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has declared it the necessary procedure has to be followed, and on the issues where the crime is conducted, if it falls in the domain of the center has a greater voice on that particular issue. In that way, try to clarify it on this particular situation. Once this topic evolves, so we can see an editorial in the coming days and a few more articles, we can discuss in detail. And Myanmar's best hope. Now the Myanmar elections are over, and Mr. President Thein Sein and General Min Aung, I'll call him as Min Aung, I cannot spell his second name. Thein Sein, Min Aung, Aung San Suu Kyi's meeting is over, and General has assured the people that the democratic transition is going to happen very soon. It means it's a positive sign for the Myanmar. So what are the reasons for this particular change in the military thinking? One is, in spite of their force, they are unable to hold control over the democratic forces in Myanmar. And second is, the constitution which is in force in Myanmar was drafted by the military itself. So according to this constitution, military still holds the control over the key portfolios such as defense, home and border management. And Miss Suu Kyi, having children of British origin, she cannot become the president of Myanmar. And finally, the Myanmar is going through a very different phase. One way, you have the minority conflict between Rohingyas and Buddhists, majority Buddhists. And the second thing is, especially the military government tried to come into peace with various ethnic population over there, especially across the Chinese and Indian border. But it failed to come through. So in this insurgency driven situation, the democracy will be in a better situation to handle this. Now it is a testing time for Aung San Suu Kyi, how to bring in reconciliation between various ethnic groups, how she can persuade these extremist elements to shun their weapons, etc. So this is a transitional phase, and which has transformative effects in Myanmar. And intolerance fuels radicalization. So this article specifically talks about growing IAS recruits in India. So one of the reasons it says is the growing intolerance debate or ongoing intolerance debate and increased incidents of violence against the minorities. It is bringing a sense of insecurity and also a sense of retribution faced by these people. So in this context, many of the youth who are being engulfed with this campaign, they want to go for a revenge on the nation, and that is one thing which is fueling the increase in IS recruits from India. So the government has to provide the sense of security to all the groups in the country. That's what is the author argues. It is in the best interest of the security of the nation. The next is about polio vaccine. Here we need to understand certain terms. The wild polio, against this, the vaccine is given. The vaccines are differentiated into two types. One is oral polio vaccine, injected polio vaccine. So under the oral polio vaccine, what happens is it gets settles in our intestine. So from intestine through feces, it goes into the waste or goes out through the feces. When sanitation is improperly maintained, this genetically modified virus that can affect and cause the polio-like symptoms in the other people who are immunely deprived. This is what is described as non-polio acute flaccid paralysis. And an injected polio virus, we can have vaccine-derived polio virus. Now, what is this vaccine-derived polio virus talks about? Now, the IPV, it can activate in an immunely deficient people and it can cause VGPV. So, in this context, though WHO certified India as a polio-free country, it means it is free only from WPV, that is wild polio virus. But however, non-polio acute flaccid paralysis, which is oral polio vaccine induced, vaccine derived polio virus, which is injected vaccine induced, need to be checked. There are more than 50,000 cases of these being reported every year. So the government has to take the appropriate steps and it has to give a booster IPV vaccine to already the people who are being given with the OPV vaccine to fight against this. This is what is the article talks. So as more the number of people becomes immune against the polio virus, obviously it will have a positive effect and the number of polio, these cases are going to come down. And the next is the electric car for the masses. You know, ongoing climate summit, the environmental minister in the France, he has provided for an electric car for the masses. So if possible, try to understand about this Tesla car. The Tesla new models which have been come up, they are trying to bring in a mass production of the electrical car. Now, along with this, he has also provided that we have to create environmentally sustainable urban transport systems. A developed country is not one where everyone has a car, but it is a place where every rich man takes a public transport. Rudolph, I think, Giuliani, the New York mayor who made this particular statement. Similarly, an efficient urban transport systems that are sustainable are critical. And he also talks about something called solar roads, where solar panels which are durable are fitted onto the roads. When the road is vacant, they automatically get switched on to produce the energy. These are the few innovative ideas they are talking about. Now, government's gold bond scheme. So first, what is the objective of this scheme? One of the major import of India is gold. The average import of the gold per annum, use of the gold per annum, it is about 2.1 lakh crores. India imports 2.1 lakh crores for the year 2014-15. As this year the prices have come down further, the import value is going to, or import volume is going to increase further and further. So this is the critical thing for our lack of, or our mismanagement of the balance of payments. The widening of current account deficit can be attributed to this. To decrease this deficit, the government of India wants to bring in this gold bond scheme. So, the gold bond scheme, it has a value, a paper, I can call this as a paper gold. Why a man buys a gold, or why a person is interested in gold? One thing, an ornamental value, and the second thing is in saving. So, in this context, what you can do is, if you want to buy a gold, you can go to a bank and buy the gold bond. So that the gold bond will be priced against the gold, the day's market price of the gold. Now, tomorrow gold price increases. When you take your bond back, then you are going to get the price of the gold which is there on that market rate on that particular day. And similarly, you also get interest rate, which is an added advantage. So that's why the gold bond is more incentivized rather than buying a real gold as an investment. So the problems here in the implementation of the gold bond scheme, one is related to access and the second one is the returns on the investment. One is, if you talk about access, this is what limited only to the Indian citizens. So the NRIs, etc., they are not allowed to use these gold bonds. So in this context, many people may not be able to be very much interested to this. And the returns, they are just 2% interest rate, which may not be attractive to the people. So unless you bring in access, returns, and also flexibility, the maturity period shall be able to chosen by that particular individuals, then the gold bond scheme can be more successful. So this is about this article. Next is related to the center talking about relaxing the green norms. Now 40% of the land in India, it needs defense permissions to be used for various purposes. So in this context, the center wants to complete the aerial geophysical survey of the entire country within 3 years so that we can redefine the need for environmental and defense permissions. That is one positive step towards the ease of doing business and increase the availability of the land for the productive purposes. And a tight grip on Mumbai realty, the real estate sector. If you see the Dawood Ibrahim, Shota Shakil and these people, they still hold the control over the Mumbai realty, especially on the redevelopment projects and also the properties that are disputed. So the regulation of the real estate sector, again it comes into discussion over here. India always wants to have a better ties with the Nepal, Sushma Swaraj. So here, a framework agreement was reached between a ruling government headed by the Prime Minister Oli, opposition of Nepali Congress and Madheshi representatives, so that can ease the tensions between India and Nepal. We are hopeful of that. And coming to this climate change talks. So now there are two important issues in the climate change. One is finances, the next one is carbonization, which are opposed by the G77. What are these finances? Under UNFCCC framework, UN framework for combating climate change, the finances were not attached with any conditionalities. Now the Paris conference was trying to bring in this to the finances to the conditionalities, changing the very framework. And it says that the contributions from a particular country shall be critical towards receiving the finances, which is opposed by G77 and China. And the second is bringing the word carbonization is also opposed. The reason is tomorrow this carbonization can become a tool for imposing the tariffs. The non-tariff barriers can be imposed, saying that this good is produced with high carbon deliverables in a developing country so that we don't import this good. Like that news stories may come up with the developed countries, so they don't want to give scope for this. On providing for the finances, the term used is the developed countries in a position to do so. So there are no fixed financial obligations on the part of the developed countries. If they are in a position to do so, yes, they can give. So it means it fixes no responsibility to provide for predictable finances. These are the three things that worries the G77 and China. And India itself is keeping very low profile in these talks, so that it will not be targeted by the developed nations. And California again gun shootout in the United States, the gun laws in the country, and you know that America people can hold a gun, but I don't want to discuss these articles. Okay, this is about the 14th article. So this is about today's newspaper, and thank you very much. All the best. I'll also upload the notes for you, and I'll also send you a question. And thank you very much. And by tomorrow again, 7:30 in between, you'll get your article. Bye-bye.